for them to go back to their community? And how are you going to do that if it's a voluntary program?
Yes, we will provide the transportation is will be included, pick and drop. Most of the program they do transportation also. We will, if they are coming from outside, we will pick them from the airport and drop them back to the airport or wherever they want to go. So that the transportation will be included in our program. So that is part of the program transportation.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, so step number one, we need a public hearing. And we need to invite the community, especially the residents. And if obviously, if we're going to do an annexation or a zoning change, we would have to notify them anyway. But I would rather do that before we get to that step, before these gentlemen waste their money on a zoning application or an annexation application. Let's get a feel for the community. I feel like we really need to do that. I agree. Okay, so let us see how quickly we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have turned the page. We're on page 2 at the top. And we have pulled 7B. So we are currently at 7C. Discussion with possible action, Monterey boat expansion. Airport Manager Benton Stegall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. We had an issue with Monterey boats that was reported by a concerned citizen. Basically, just off of 25th, I think it was 25th Street. Oh, we have the map. Amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much, Latricia. I was worried that it didn't get put in the slideshow. But, all right, so if you look at the map, section J on the map is an area where Monterey boats started to develop a paved parking lot. Now, if you look at the rest of it, you'll notice, section G is a first right of refusal. It's not technically part of their lease as it stands for their main campus. So when we were notified by this concerned citizen, we stopped their operation, and they came to us and said, well, what can we do to keep it moving? And Terry and I have been talking and working with them pretty diligently on what we need to do to get things made right for one, the citizens, and two, the city and the organization as well, and try to make it to where everything can still move forward and nobody's really disturbed one way or another. Now, the big issue with them developing this section, aside from being outside of their lease, is right on the other side of that section. You can see a little dirt road. Right on the other side of that dirt road is a residential area. So this area is zoned industrial and butts up right next to a residential area. So our intent in allowing Monterey to develop this would be to protect the citizens of the county, because this is just outside city limits, because the airport is the city limits. To protect the residents of the county by requiring Monterey boats to put in a buffer, a vegetation buffer. That way they wouldn't have to see the buildings or the goings on at Monterey boats on a day-to-day basis. Mr. Pita has somewhat verbally agreed to this. We haven't gotten down into specifics yet, but he hasn't given us an outright no. He's actually pretty warm to the idea. So given that they put in a hedge barrier between the industrial park and the citizens, we believe that with talking with legal counsel and everything, the best course of action for this, to remedy this, would to be to get Monterey boats to survey section J and make them pay for the survey, and then bring this back as essentially an amendment or a first right of refusal to add to the main campus lease. And feel free to step in anytime, Terry or Kirsten, if you need to.
So essentially what you would be doing is, after you have the legal description of Area J, then we would execute an acknowledgement of the lessor's right of first refusal, but specifically to that area. We'd include that legal description in that acknowledgement, and then we can calculate the increase in their rent based upon that amount of acreage only, because that's what they've exercised. So they would retain the rest of G and all of F as additional rights of first refusal, but they would then be executing their right to this J parcel right here, and that would be the basis for the increase in their rent. Does that make sense?
However, according to Exhibit A on their main campus lease, their rent would then be abated once the property is developed.
Correct.
Say that again?
Once the property is developed, according to Exhibit A on the main campus lease, their rent for that section would be abated.
Would be part of the abatement that they currently have.
Yes.
My question is on G, because G wraps all the way around and goes to the left, or to the right, our right. Do we need to rename that portion rather than leave it sitting out there without a name?
Legally, it doesn't have a name. This is a hasty map that I put together on PowerPoint.
I mean, I realize it's all G.
Right, but
And we're carving out a piece and leaving a tail over here by itself.
So G doesn't technically exist. Like as it's legally described, G is not a legal description.
Okay.
On this map, I took the legal descriptions as defined by the leases and kind of hammered out the barrier lines or the points as close as I could. This is not a legally binding document. This is a tool for us to quick reference this stuff. So the letter designations is just a tool for us to be able to use as a quick reference point instead of saying this building versus that building versus that building versus this plot of land. It's merely a tool. It's not a legal.
So we're still going to call it the legal description and carve a piece out of the middle.
Correct. So what you
That's
have,
what I'm asking, I
Yes.
guess.
what
Yes.
you have right now in your lease is a legal description of G in whole. So
Which includes J at
which
this time.
includes J at this time. So what we're going to do is have Monterey Boats survey it, get a legal description of J, the parcel that they're trying to exercise right of first refusal on,
Right.
and we'll carve out that section for their right of first refusal. The remaining portions of G, as described in your current lease, will remain as rights of first refusal, just unexercised.
But we don't need to call it anything different.
I don't think that we do right now. I mean, and this is, to Benton's point, this is just sort of what we're referencing. I mean, on our map we could label it K now, but it's still described in what you have in your legal description right now in the lease.
Okay? And we skipped I for some reason and have two H's.
That's a typo on my behalf. The
Okay.
two H's are H and I, parcel 7 and parcel 8.
Thank you very much.
I apologize
You're
for that.
confusing me. All right, great. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Stiegel? So I guess you need to bring back right of first refusal with the proper surveyed legal description.
So we'll make sure that Monterey Boats will need to get the survey first. So we'll get the survey, we'll get the legal description, and then we'll come back to you with an acknowledgement of their exercise of that portion.
And they need all their permits before they start
Yes.
next time, including a Swift mud permit,
Yes.
because they don't have one of those either.
In the conversation with the gentleman from Monterey Boats, is that going through email or just verbal?
Some of it was tracked through email traffic, and some of it was verbal. I mean, if you would like us to document a little bit better on the email side, we could do that.
We're going to put it in writing sooner or later,
Right.
so,
Still, we come down to he said, she said.
Well, when we do the carve out, we'll have to put it in there.
We'll
Yeah.
make sure that all of the parts of our agreement are reduced to a signed
Absolutely.
agreement.
And I think if you're looking for some memorialization of the event that occurred, we can obviously do that if it's not already captured by email, at least the content of it. Is that what Mr. Cox you're looking for?
Perfect. Okay, so you'll bring it back to us, and we don't need any action tonight. All right, thank you. All right, we're moving to item D, discussion with possible action review of the September 2022's financial report. Mr. Bloom.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here.
Good evening. Happy to be here. I wanted to kind of present an overview of what is your unaudited at this point, September 2022 financials. And I'll go through each of the funds and kind of talk about the highlights and then I'll end this kind of talking about what's next. This is not the last you'll see of 2022. We've got some other things to do. So in looking at general fund, the overall for the year, the budget was to utilize 90,000 of your cash reserves. That was what was budgeted. As of right now, you've only needed to use 25,000 of it. So again, that's very positive. Obviously, as we're moving forward, we're making we're making strides to kind of not have to use cash reserves at all, and then start building cash reserves. I'm just kind of moving you a little bit forward in terms of what we'll be talking about throughout 2023 and into the budget process. Is really what you're seeing here is that you had to utilize cash reserves. You only have finite cash reserves. So obviously there's other expenses that we'll have to talk about, but I wanted to just kind of mention that as we go through this. Overall, property taxes about 98% collected. For those of you who don't know, that anybody who still owes money on property taxes, that doesn't go away just because they didn't pay. It's attached to their property, and we'll get delinquent taxes moving forward. And a lot of times when I'm seeing it, I'll see delinquent taxes going back 5-6 years that we're just getting. I mean, small amounts, but we still, it's still on there. When you look in terms of spending, some of these things I wanted to mention because there's offsets. We always talk about the spending, we don't always look at that. But for example, P&Z and building expenses, when you look at the bottom right, it's a little bit harder, I don't know if you can make that larger to see, but what I've done on some of these charts is, in this case, anything that's in blue or above the red line means it's over budget. And so I always like to explain what that means, and more importantly, talk about offsets. So for example, the highest one there is your P&Z and your building. And I wanted to mention that there's 155,000 that offsets that. In other words, you've got quite a bit of permitting activity, and that's why your expenses are higher. It's kind of like when we talk about the airports, the fuel costs has gone up because the fuel revenue has gone up, and it's always a good thing. In terms of fire, we've talked about fire quite a bit. That's the next one, really, in terms of the one we always look at. But again, two things I wanted to mention about that is one, there's also additional offset revenue that we build besides what's billed to the county as the one-offs. We have, the regular one-off hourly amounts. That's another $16,000 that comes back in. The other thing I wanted to mention, and it's not, we talked about this before, is that fire had actually quite a bit of vehicle repairs that goes into that. And again, we found ways to come up with revenue for it, grant-wise, but it's still an expenditure. And when you're lining up against the budget, it's still going to kick out as a big number. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing for the general fund, and this is just your number for the general fund, $122,000 for vehicle fuel. We've been talking about the gas side for natural gas, but it's really all over the place, and that's certainly not something we budgeted for. And those are really kind of your big, ticket items. The good thing was kind of ending with the good side. In terms of revenue, you wound up 106% of your budget. You budgeted about $3.8 million, and you wound up about $3.83. So, I mean, that is good, even though you did overspend as expected, you did have additional revenue, so that's a good side. Okay, looking at the airport. So overall in the airport, and this is everything, about $24,000 surplus. And I say everything because this is one of the few times that the airport has actually started to invest in the future. I think if you go back several years, the airport fund was in a deficit, to the tune of a little bit over $330,000. I always mention that because it's always good to remember where you came from. Right now, they have an available reserve of $312,000 positive. And that's with this year them actually putting money into infrastructure, non-grant infrastructure. So that is very good. When you look at their year-over-year fuel sales, increased by 81%. And in addition to that, there was timber revenue, not a huge amount this year. I think more that you'll see in 2023 as we talk about the next quarter. They were able to reduce their AR allowance. It was hovering around, possibly going up to almost 75,000 by year end. Now it's down to 50 and going down further. Really doing a good job with that. About $750,000 in airport spending. And really the only reason why I mention that is that's covered by grants, but that is cash money out that we are waiting to get back in. So it's important to keep an eye on that. Overall, very successful year for the airport. Okay, the CRA has had some decent activity at the end of the year. I mention that is because for the CRA, similar to the airport, and every dollar in stays. So whatever their fund balance is 100% slotted for the CRA. At year end, they have a little bit over $500,000 that they're carrying over into 2023. I know they've got some plans already for that. During the year, they spent a little bit over $400,000 in projects, Main Street or the Arcade. So some real good activity for there, and again, $500,000 kind of carrying forward, and that's what should be for your next budget. CalLink, really kind of just tracking the grant revenue. That's really the only thing coming through right now. So the balance, again, these are the unaudited numbers, about $64,000 that's left on what amounts to the first tier of that grant. So really, like I said, no additional revenue besides grant money. Okay, so now we're left with the utility fund. So the budget for the utility fund was to use up I'm rounding $16,000 of cash reserves. Right now, unaudited, it's about $321,000. So kind of in the last quarter, they were coming up better than budget, and they so far have finished better than budget. But again, as we talked about when we looked at the rates, there was a reason why we talked about needing to go up in rates, and $321,000. That's the deficit for the year. All services, except for gas and sewer, and really kind of go to the next page as I talk about this. So we talk about operating versus what is the net income. Operating is before the transfer to the general fund. Not that you can't not do the transfer, but looking at the operating kind of shows you if there are any significant holes. Gas lost about $128,000 just in operating, even before the transfer. Sewer basically, a little bit of a loss, but kind of broke even. Electric made about $586,000, which is still down from prior years. I think again we've talked about the gas and the rates and why and what went on. So this is just kind of showing you what happened. But overall, before the transfer, the utility fund made about $578,000. After the transfer, which was $900,000, then you have your loss of $321,000. So in terms of what's next, at this stage, for 2022, we're doing a complete audit, internal audit. I mean, you'll have a secondary external audit that'll get done, but I go through and look at all of your grants, look at all of the invoices, make sure everything's been reimbursed. We've already been talking about all of that. just kind of going through the reserves. All of the book entries now get recorded. We talk about the fund depreciation that happens now. It basically is, we prepare for our single audit, which is anytime you're getting money from the federal government, you also have to do a single audit. So all of that gets done now, and then next year we will come back to council with a final audited version of these numbers, and then we'll have one more. That'll be the last kind of big look, and that'll be done by your external auditors who will actually present those numbers to you. And with that, we'll kind of go into the questions.
Questions for Mr. Blank? Again, you said it so I could understand it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It helps us see, especially in September, when you can see the last month of the fiscal year. All right. Then we will finally move to Mr. Kaysen. I know he's been very patient with us tonight. We will move to item, where are we? D. Discussion with possible action discussion with possible action, changing from Lincoln Investment to Inspire. And this is given to Mr. Bavard and Mr. Kaysen.
Yeah, Jim, you want me to start, or would you like to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start, and then I'll let Mr. Kaysen fill in where we can. So, as you know, the city has a deferred compensation fund that was created some time back by resolution that we currently have going through Drummond Bank, and then through Nature Coast Financial, and then ultimately through a company called Lincoln. So with the changes to Drummond Bank, to their new name, we'll have a new investment company we'll be working with called Aspire, and basically that's going to require for us to sign a new contract with them to do this. I will tell you this after going through the document with and having some questions from Mr. Kaysen. The services with Aspire is both cheaper and better for the employees. The employees will have an option if they choose to stay with Lincoln, but they'll have to do it on their own. They cannot do it through the city. We can only have one account, and basically one account only. I will tell you that the original investment or deferred compensation plan that was originally signed was signed by the city manager way back when, and certainly I have no issues in signing this one, but we wanted to bring it to y'all to let you know that it is changing, and Mr. Kaysen is going to be talking to, if he has not already, those employees that we have are currently involved in the deferred compensation plan. And I'm assuming you have or have not?
Not yet.
Okay. So he'll be talking to each one of them individually, let them know what their options are. I truly don't see anything changing other than probably the cost is going to get cheaper. Their investments will still be the same. They can still choose what they want to invest in. And I think it's going to come at a lower cost. And unfortunately, though, I don't think we'll see Mr. Kaysen. I believe at some part will be transferred over to somebody else. And I don't know that gentleman's name. You told me, but who is it?
Louis Bear.
Yeah, so there'll be another gentleman, I believe, that will be servicing our account, but we just need to move forward with it. It is time sensitive, something we do need to get done as soon as we can, and.
Is it Inspire or Aspire?
Aspire.
Aspire, okay,
So
it's wrong on our agenda.
Yeah.
Aspire.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So just a little more background on that. Because of the merger with Drummond Bank and Seacoast Bank, Nature Coast Financial Services, all of our employees and our clients will be absorbed into Seacoast Bank's Wealth Management Division. They currently use LPL as a broker-dealer, where we currently use Lincoln Investments. So I currently have 3 other advisors in my office and an office assistant, so there are currently 5 of us. Louis Vera, who is a Williston resident, graduate, will be taking over as the lead on this plan. It is time sensitive. All of the others in my office have already transitioned to LPL Financial. I'm remaining with Lincoln Investment until January 16th, and then they will terminate my contract. But that's so we can facilitate the transfer of all of our clients with me on one side of the fence and the other employees on the other.
How many do we have right now, Jimmy?
I think you have about 9. Maybe.
Not too many. I know there weren't many in that defined bench.
Yeah, But I'll just put a plug in for all of y'all that are here. Everybody can sign up, so. So it is time sensitive. So what we would like to do is get the new agreement in place. That'll give me time to open the accounts for the 9 or however many employees are currently participating. We'll let them begin their contributions to Aspire the 1st of January, allow the existing contributions to go to Lincoln through the end of December. And then after the last contribution for December is made, we'll execute the transfer form to move their existing balance into their new account.
Okay, so we need to give permission for our city manager to sign the contract so it's done expeditiously.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And just on what he said, the architecture inside of both Lincoln and Aspire is an open architecture, which means they can select just about any fund company. So whatever they're holding now, we can hold in the Aspire. It will be a different share class and a different fee structure. They're going to save roughly 1% per year on the cost of their account.
Perfect.
So.
And there's no cost to change over.
Well, Lincoln is going to charge a termination fee to each participant, but we are reimbursing the fee because it's not the participant's choice to move. So if there are any fees, it will be reimbursed by LPL Financial and Seacoast Bank.
Okay. Good. All right. Any questions for either Mr. Bavard or Mr. Casey?
We're good.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion then to allow the city manager to sign the Aspire contract when it is ready.
I move that we agree to let the city manager sign the contract with Aspire.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Casey. I'm sorry to keep you so long.
No problem. Thank y'all very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think this is a good time for a break. Are y'all all right with that? I know it's a little earlier than we expected, but I think this is a good place.
I second it.
I just called, we're having a recess and we're going to be out maybe 20 minutes.
Thank you.
20 minutes. Ms. Downer, there are refreshments in the community center if anyone would like to join us.
Could you just let them know why? Some people want to know why.
Worst vacation ever.
I would just tell everybody, we've been here since 5 o'clock at a previous meeting, and we didn't get a break in between, but that's why we're having a break. And if you'd like to join us, there's drink and food across the hall.
This is good. I'm like, wait a second. I missed the excitement step, right? I appreciate helping all the information. Is that only going to learn
It came out of the
Leave it alone, quick, stop. Go ahead, you're going to run.
I was thinking out.
I think everybody will understand.
Yeah.
I
Baptist church, they're trying to spend all my money.
That's the short answer.
That's the short answer.
Y'all are doing good.
We're doing good. Man, you know, my children, the longest time I just went into the building and stood in a car and gave 3 months.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And the staff sometimes thinks that's the same thing for their budget.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's what they forget is we're not going to buy from the private. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like, okay, well, you want this, you want that. It's like, you guys just like 6 months ago spent, $40,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You gonna be here to the whole meeting?
John Curtis.
Hey, John.
I'm the owner of the company.
Oh, okay, all right, very good.
Thanks. I decided to attend. I've been in 4 years.
Well, Corey and I are, and Beth and Laura are working very hard to make this happen.
College foundation.
And your other plan.
Well, actually, so for me, I'm working, I do this all for my legs. I like to keep my country.
Right now, they're
Right.
So I'm hoping to this work. Yeah. Push it on. It's work that I've been trying to do.
I think it's good.
Oh, well, a lot of it is working for us.
Okay.
But the old,
Knowing what housing market needs are.
Yep, yep, oh, no, we do, we're all comfort, so, we can use cards, yeah, I'll email you. Yeah, that'll work, and,
all that,
And my goal is also the lady who used to fly. We're trying to, you know, I can't develop, but I sure try to be able to get a stunt pilot.
yeah, well, good.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Okay.
Lately, I didn't know.
I think any existing plan or whatever they have to have property is really, exactly.
I mean, I get it, you know, it was around what they did, but, I mean, I like.
Why it's not.
No, he could really put one through the face. Every little Cherokee coat was there, and he had somebody else, they had a string.
You know, I think what happened to us, was
She come flying
I've
down,
already
put
said
that
that
thing
probably
upside down.
better communication like that, right?
Probably maybe the misstep is very much my fault for not understanding, you know,
what really we were talking about here. And basically, we start reading the.
Anyway.
Well, one of the questions I was gonna ask. I thought it was one of the funnest things I saw out there on them airviews, and they had to go yeah, that was old biplane.
So, some more.
Yeah, how do you, do you get the name and I can?
Well, the issue, don't worry now, most of the issue is that they don't explain what investments and the state tax stuff, right? Typically, staff that they're not going to do this until their legal attorney recommended. So we have to define what the they say, that they say they just
Yeah, so we gave the professional services wait a little while for the,
They had a biplane.
undertraining practice still.
Took all the nuclear up and around.
So he
Kept iron. He flipped that thing upside down, out from the bottom.
You know, you've got
It was one of the skydivers, and he's been crouched down anyway. So when he flipped it over, he felt like he jumped out, you know, and everybody was screaming. She opened up the huge blood attack. So he took care of everybody.
He's not ready to
He was not the driver.
So
Well,
it
pretty
should
sure
be
it's probably.
just.
He wasn't even on duty.
Obviously, we do right before we started, so I'll also stand up this morning, because Corey and I have had some conversations, I wanna make sure, in case something gets missed, misstep occurs, I can just step right in.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I
Don't
thought it
literally
was,
pull them out of the bin.
no, not to see that.
Anyone else has been able to read, and then whatever the difference is, there it is. If you put $1 in,
Well, we're coming to.
$65 to get peso, or we could just send the whole amount next the whole thing, take the property.
Really? Oh, yeah. So, you know, the plan more.
Or we could keep on doing
So, you know, it's down to the Laura being involved is my mother, to be honest with you.
You know, I came up here and took this job, we were having
So there's
about
still
30
four of
houses
his
here
there.
developed in Williston.
Two
And,
over there.
you know, I'm
But the
extremely
six in the middle
you know, because we have
have all
one
been
fighter.
refurbished
So,
and beautified.
I think actually the relationships that she has developed with, and I'm sorry, what was her name?
I asked the guy to take him out to the breakfast
They do
and say,
and she can't
would
hear
he
that.
sell there?
Yeah, yeah.
What
So I think it's all been
price
good for her, and then
per
I've
unit?
also told her, look, you contrary
Just to
now,
get
don't run yourself in the ground. Find
that
somebody
person
that knows.
some kind of a dollar figure to somebody else's job. Because anybody who approached him, he said, it'll
I
have
think
this
it's
month.
probably gonna be a plus.
Without a dollar figure, how do you know that you don't have company?
Right.
He doesn't even wait for them to give him an answer, he just says,
Well,
you
no, the price
know,
side, I'm over here all the time. I don't not take his phone calls, that's why.
I know.
I definitely
Which at this point, with that property, is not
I know his
applicable
predecessor,
because
both of them.
Right.
it's gonna be foreclosed.
Yeah,
It was,
that's all we're gonna do here because there's
municipality.
everything else going on like that.
Right.
And understands that.
And so it'll essentially be a lather.
I see the positive control bill. Exactly.
All of these, all of these other
So
ones,
to
right?
me,
You know, cause we've got a big project in the back, we wanna start.
You got to,
parking lot.
Right, we're gonna need to.
you've got to
do some
increase
roofs.
the tax base somehow. And, that's always gonna be short stick for us. You know, you can't do it by.
He has a very,
homes.
damage on it.
Right.
I work with a group called Casco.
Whatever happens, happens now, it's just.
And I talked to them about this one.
So it might be a, you know, depends, it doesn't sound like he's got a lot of money. I'm not
They
sure
got
this
some
is
good
a
product.
detrimental action.
I'm gonna grab a water. Yeah, I got to ask him real quick, so. There, I appreciate it.
Are you
Yeah,
good?
I will email my stuff.
Do you know
I'll send you both my personal and my business.
drop off,
If you send it to me, if you send me your contact information, or text it to me on that cell phone, and I'll send you mine back,
Yes,
and I'll
no
say what you.
electricity, no running water.
Yeah, I'm in Gainesville, Griffin, Gainesville.
I don't know how he's living,
Oh, okay.
other than like a hermit.
So, I mean, that was, you know, again, we built it and then turned around sold it later on.
I'm sorry.
Well, like I said, if you ever
Like a
read
hermit.
that FDOT,
Like a hermit.
I would
Pay
suggest,
for it.
you can't be one thing, none, every council member are given the opportunity.
No
to read it.
electricity,
I don't know whether
no,
they are or not, but,
water,
you know,
water,
it's,
no sewer.
you know, 300 pages.
Yeah, I mean,
Code
Well, we
enforcement
can't,
officer?
we can't prove it yet, because we
So
haven't
the only
gone
two
on
court
his
tickets are
property
me
to
was
see 'em.
the lack of
We
noise
could be
study
living
and
in
the
a
state,
little
and,
apartment somewhere
cancer use.
sneaking off.
So those are the two, and, you know, having absent of
I'm
those
not following
issues,
around.
you know, I wouldn't give a whole lot of reason.
I'll wait till
but,
they
you
get
know,
that.
I-
Hey, can you go do a well-being check?
You don't know, and I think because the way
I'm on the
they
way.
the state statute said, look,
That's,
somebody-
all right, that would be the next thing.
That's where I came from.
That would allow them into the property.
Here and Marion County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
Retired as chief of staff over there.
Okay. Whoa.
So to me,
What
the
now?
laws of, and there's a lot of gray areas in the law. And there's a lot of case law that's written, and a lot of definitions are in towards that, helps guide you through
Is there-
the law. The problem is that when they specifically go and say, we're not gonna tell you anything.
All right. Unless you got
Yeah, and they say that in the statute, they say that in the statute, we're absolutely.
And that's why,
not gonna
because
fight.
we're, the college is that we kind of have to define how they define it, and to make it so it works for all parties. And that's why
And I think so too. I think they left it broad so we can all figure it out.
yeah, because at the end of the day, this one has to make a decision on how it grow. And there's property that, you know, yeah, when it's been there since 58, and it's 86. Yeah, so, but, listen, I appreciate the, you know, are you staying for the?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, I came in to be a part of this, and I just, listen, because, I mean, I came before this commission, I mean, we did things, and we did all these things, and then the funding was $6 months. And it'd be crazy, and I wanted to do small, you know, 30 bucks a year. And the banks were like, well, we'll lend you 100%. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that means you only owe 20 to 30%. I'm like, 30% of the funding, Mr. Mayor. I'm like, 30% of the funding is more than I'm asking to get a loan for. It's just, you know.
So this is Marion.
John Goodman, he and I met for John Curtis. It's been several years, sir.
Yeah.
I'm the owner of the Covington property, and came before y'all years ago, and then unfortunately, there was new funding for our development. And so now I'm here tonight in support because I want to see the city actually get some housing that makes sense for people to walk to school and have.
It's a good location. There's no question about the location. It's a good location.
And,
So you think you got your funding?
well, actually, I don't.
I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I can hit the rocket before we. Why don't you, I gotta hit it too, but I don't care. I don't have to be in the meeting. I'll just go.
Okay. But, so I actually work for a large development company called Coulter now, so
Who?
Coulter. They're out of South Florida, but.
COULT?
KOLTER.
Okay.
And this project's too small.
Yeah.
We typically do minimum 100 acres.
Yeah.
I got 5 projects by the villages that are 750 units to 2,500.
That place is
Oh, it's crazy. It's a crazy place. Yeah.
you could, I need to just tell you
Yeah,
something.
go ahead.
Just so you know. It's not a criticism, okay?
I'm fine.
Some people contacted me and they said this audio was bad until 5 minutes ago.
Can't help.
Got better.
Can't help.
Can't help it got better.
Once I just start the stream, it is what it is. I have no control over it at this point. Once I hit the go button, it is what it is.
Can we do it, it's
Yeah,
YouTube,
sure.
it's YouTube, right?
Well, no, I think they were on well, it could be both, because they're 2 different cameras, 2 different mics. So it could be either one. Either they're on the YouTube listening to one stream, or they're on the Spring Central meeting listening to a different stream. So they're 2 different sources.
People were on YouTube.
Just 2 different sources. And YouTube especially, once you hit go,
Okay, goodbye.
it is what it is.
I'm finishing my other
question.
conversation.
Do you like your phone here? I love these. Honestly, I tried, I said last week at Best Buy, and my wife said, well, why don't you get them? Make sure they're the aftershocks, or the rebranded shocks. Okay. I think Best Buy carries them called shocks. Yeah. They're the same ones, they're just rebranded. That's what I was looking, I'm like. I love them. Twofold, because they're not in my ear. Yeah, you can listen. And you can still hear what's going on around you, and they don't bother you, you wear them all day. Okay. If I leave the house without them, I'm literally, I feel naked. Oh no, I want to turn back and go get them.
And when the mayor's trying to talk to you, you can pretend that you can't.
Yeah,
hear
you can
it
go, hold
because
on a minute, I want a phone call.
I got something in my ear.
Hold on. They're not perfect by any means, but they are leaps and bounds above earbuds. I hate earbuds because you can't wear them all day because they hurt your ears. Your ears get sore wearing them. These are perfect, I love them.
No.
And they sound good, the quality's good, the mic quality is good on a phone call. And you can turn them up quite loud, and him right here can't hear a thing.
Yeah, that's what my wife, my father-in-law, she was saying right next to her, can you hear me? She's like, oh,
Yeah, you can't, now, if you hold them like by your ear, you can hear them. But 2, 3 feet away, they can be wide open.
Do I see Latricia?
Now?
Do I see Latricia?
Yes,
so
she
that
has
I don't
those.
lose my car?
She has those.
We're done, right?
Yes, sir.
See you.
Yep, man, take care. Mr. Elhue, how are you?
All right. You gonna go out there and chop them down? No, I'm not. You don't? I'm making phone calls and talking to people
All right,
about
what?
shelter and.
Oh, you don't cost? Are you still feel like you're indebted?
I do. I appreciate you doing that for me.
Actually, I'm gonna ask a question. It doesn't kind of, not really involve that, but it's a totally different question, but possibly could involve that.
The utilities.
Do you do any site work? Do you do any moonlighting?
And the night before.
Legal moonlighting.
Outside of municipal law or outside of my firm?
Outside your firm. / outside of municipal law.
Sure.
Okay, just simple stuff, basically.
And then people call me and say,
I have a trust that I need to close out.
basically
Basically, what I understand it is, I didn't know I had to do anything.
They take out everything to the city.
Our lawyer, which was my grandmother's lawyer, sent us a nice letter. Oh, by the way,
Well, they knew.
we noticed that, right,
Said city council.
you know, if you did the deed, everyone didn't consider you a that what it's called? Anyway, yes.
John Curtis, no, it's okay. Hey, actually, I sent you an email the other day from my culture account.
You're working on the storage facility down at Twisted Oaks.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Okay.
So that's why I left a message yesterday for your office, and when I heard they said you're like, oh, that's me. So, yeah, I'm gonna call you anyway. I wanna make sure that that was what you got. And you saw that so Matt Wart's gonna be working to design that road, and so I met with him today, and hopefully I'll get a sketch or schematic to get over to you next week.
They do mostly.
So you may end up doing that, 270,000 square feet of light industrial.
Where at?
From what I understand, it's
Just
probably something I could
the,
talk to myself.
just north of downtown Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
I think I have
So
to
it
do
could work for the ports and stuff, so I've
Yeah.
got the middle section of the
statement
contract
in
for
lieu of
residential, but they're kind of
inventory.
potentially trying to
Or
trade
something
me
like
into
that.
at least.
So all the parties
I think I've got
basically
somebody
sign
that
on
might
one
be
saying,
the whole thing, we
we
might break
received
it up,
our
we might,
report, you know,
we might
everything's
just
been
build
resolved.
Section of time, yeah, doing piecemeal and see where it goes.
But I mean, there's a huge demand for it.
Oh, God, yeah, no, that's,
Industrial is
well,
just
so
wrong
that's one of the
for
things that, you know, I've gotten that project out, we got a project there off of Garden Street.
Yeah.
Way out there next to Cary Forest.
Yeah.
That right now we're seeing with a lot of the land there, but,
That's all.
we're constantly trying to find some other areas there. And mixed use is, you know, an industrial, a little bit commercial, you know, it's the single family, multifamily, and the component mix. That's all, I mean, it's Jackson
You
always.
send me over the letter, I can just.
So it'll be, that'll be interesting, I mean, I'm learning a lot about it. Learning a lot on this one, yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, thanks. Yeah, actually, I saved it the other day from that email, but yeah, I've got my OCD fixed, and I got an email, so I'm like, oh, wait.
But, I've definitely learned more about, the latest stuff than I.
Well, so that was right, so I pulled up several sources, a couple other counties who've got small municipalities. They only have 31 flights a day out here. Yeah. Well, then, what is it, it's over 62 days. 65, right, not 60, right.
So currently, right now.
And the cheapest we got, I think, where we're right now, the
45 decibels.
Really? Unless we went to the final version, which we're not doing.
So, but I mean, it's a daylight.
It's 130. We have to log into the browser, log into Microsoft Office, and use it in the browser.
The noise is just happening 30 seconds each time.
You're right.
You're only impacting that noise. You're
If you don't have internet, you can't write.
Right.
For a percent of that.
I mean, whole 24 hours, right, an hour was in, then the 24
Can't work in a
hours.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
I was literally just about to put them on open source.
Worst case
Free
scenario,
shit
we're gonna do
that
a
Microsoft
study
has
and
now.
it ends up, you know.
$30,000.
It's gonna end up being, instead of 40, it's gonna be 45.
Well, and that's why, as I said, I found two forms that just says,
You know
hey,
what?
we're just gonna notify, we're not gonna do the study, we're gonna notify the homeowners that there is an airport within so many miles, actually, there's miles in this case.
Because we do
But
work.
this is like they're using everybody in the panhandle, one is over there in, because the airport is a base there.
That's it.
So,
We
you know,
don't
lots
do
of
teams,
different
we
ways.
don't do.
Can you get
And so they were
mixed
just, you fill out the form, you just give it to them before they ever sign the contract with the
That's why
homeowner.
they did that.
And they sign off saying they acknowledge that there's an airport within so
Well,
much.
and that's what it says.
You used to do it a little bit differently, but
They
they
have
had like,
thousands, but.
did they have like a limited
Very
before?
specific on what they would.
Not what we do in government.
No, government.
That you would use and interpret it.
Can I bring you anything?
I think
that's probably
for water.
Water.
Well, see, yeah, but I saw this.
I think they bought it.
No, because I saw, yeah, I read.
Approval, they bought it.
Theoretically, the sound.
And I'm almost certain they put it
Goes
on
away
the
from the
credit
gate.
card.
Right.
I saw it.
Tell me to pay for it, how much we paid for it. Yeah, we
Well, remember Jen was
It
looking
is,
for that.
but however,
And that's why it's really not even in the budget,
you're
because
out
it
of
wasn't in there.
we could
Well, in the price,
sound
they
range
really
for
had,
needing a
people
study.
did not have.
Well,
that's what
so to answer this question, in that
stuff.
the schematic you provided, you had a blue and a
No,
green.
we've had a G3, this is what we're doing.
There was only a portion of the project
Yeah,
within the
we've been on
green
this
zone.
since I've been here.
But technically, only those lots that are in the
I
green
mean,
zone that
we've been on this
notified.
city since I've been in the
Theoretically,
Congress.
Yeah.
But if we did the
I can tell you,
study,
they
it would
can't-
I mean, you're basically.
on the interstate
Itself, right,
property.
because
It could have been, there was no $30,000.
Well,
I
so
don't
I
think it
thought
was that much.
I thought the
But I
Portland
expect it was
thing,
probably
both of
around
them, they do it. They do it on, they've done it on,
Yeah.
project all over the place.
That is
I mean,
common practice.
I don't know
it's
that
better
they
than
did,
you
but
tell
they
them
had-
that
they
than,
may have paid
oh, by the way,
for
this is
it.
Captain Skin.
I don't know.
I don't think there was
Right.
something,
So
I
that's-
don't think anybody was talking about purchasing the property.
Nope.
And
Where's that
what we do,
60,000
you can include,
or whatever that's not spent?
you will not
How-
sue
where does
the
that show up
airport
in that budget?
period.
in the budget. It doesn't show up in the budget.
Okay.
Because your New Year's budget is based on billing people.
Right.
So
We have actually started.
You do have some up to 250 because of the.
But it's three that are.
Yeah, unless it's blatant.
So we are installed, we got hired.
Nuisance.
has Selena actually generated bills? What was the first month of that?
Last month.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Maybe in October.
I mean, listen, you can't control everybody. Alright, so this is, so when the person who's a member signs that document, he sells his house. And he forgets to tell the person he buys the house to. It's part of the deed, it's part, yeah, it's just like as I said, CDD. It's all, you know, everybody has to have it included as part of the document. But you don't get it, it's, you know, realtors goes, I wanna make this deal, I'm not gonna mention that, you know, they can find it on their own.
With Tara, is there,
It always happens.
on the grant itself, was there a timetable that was required in order to be up and running?
They required us to be self-sufficient in a year, is what they call it.
But again,
We're self-sufficient because we need to spend all the money.
Yeah.
And they have literally quit checking on us at this point. I sent them an email.
You heard that too?
Hey, this is where we're at. They go, okay, thanks. So it's like they were hot and heavy on the meetings and the virtualizations and getting together and filling out the spreadsheets and things they wanted. Again, for like the first 4 or 5 months. And then it just like quit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, okay, so are you serving scotch at these meetings?
Well, they were trying to get many on.
Oh, I know.
We're trying to actually receive funding.
I mean, really,
Some of the same people
the appropriate way would be.
that got us that funding,
You're
they
gonna go
left,
into stuff
and went
with
to another
your
group.
plan.
They contacted me and said, hey,
I think you kind of.
yeah, I had 100 down, drank all of it, and said, there's the way.
Well,
So
But
besides
FAA
these
say, no, we
two
don't need
though,
a
is there
study.
anybody else?
that's
that's-
exactly right. With the letter,
I probably got 15.
so you got 4 to 6 months. What do you think it's gonna take time?
Because we haven't found a site.
No, how you do
They're
it?
all for this.
Trees that are.
I'm enjoying time off.
Probably take about.
So in reality, the wireless.
Yeah.
Been off for
And
about
the
4
FAA
weeks.
is
She's on there 2 weeks ago. We have dates.
So the FAA won't say.
Number 4.
So like all people over there.
William
That,
Walker.
you already made your submittal, right?
We did, but then they came back and
Named
said.
after one of our.
Approval, that's what I was wondering, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Full engineering plans before they'll give us.
Full engineering plans? Not just approval of PD and concept?
You know.
That does, really? Well, wait a minute, so if they come back and if they come back and say that you can't do it, then you just spent all this money to design
Well,
it.
they don't,
We just enjoy
they
the time.
know that you can do it because you're out of a certain region.
No,
But they want to see structural wise.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna go 35
We're not
max.
gonna get, we're not gonna get engineering done.
Yeah, so you're gonna 35 max on the house.
And that's what they want, they want you to come out and plan and say,
Yeah, with the roof, yeah, so 35.
He gets all that. So first step is to get that done. We gotta get
One to get here. This was never brought up.
Waste of funds if you don't have
16.
that. So we're basically,
Probably a couple
I
years.
mean, really what you.
I'm hoping we're
need
quicker now.
somebody.
These are somebody, if we don't, somebody else.
Right,
I'll
take
jump on
fucking
that.
audio measures.
So we're trying to push and try to get these, you know, been in contact with these people, they're on board. Just like, so they're supposed to send us some information.
So, can't do the equipment cost only 35,000.
It's just, I mean, I know the basics of what to do, but as far as to the, you
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm
this
saying.
connector, this side, this connector.
But I'll call you if I have another airport. Actually, try to culture, at that point.
No, we're gonna wire it.
Oh, you are gonna wire it?
Yeah, you need to. Yeah, rural project site.
Fiber or cable. And
They
basically wire the whole
don't
county.
have their own sound.
Line of sight, so then the wireless will basically.
Most airports have.
Is the grant that would cover that 100%?
Not the, not like the first grant,
No, my first grant is
new stuff, what we're trying to get, we're trying to get all this out. Now, whether it's by grant or by loan, I don't know. We're hoping to get bigger. We're gearing toward grants.
Yeah, no, I.
Well,
The federal government has stolen money left and right. The grant line is
then they do have the authority to not just, it's flat anymore, because, but then I can combine the lots to kind of comply by 130, which means I don't know if I'm going
I have to scream.
I would say what it was. But that's where we're at. We're actually trying to get the funding. And there was talk about, Central Florida is without the funding to address it. Central Florida doesn't
One minute warning.
Take a swallow out there. By the way, how's your I was so we're gonna play
Y'all have fun tonight. You want to promote me up to the top?
I gave it to him.
You want one M&M? I'll get you one M&M.
No, not quite.
Here you go, it's Smarties, so you're negative.
You should be eating every Smartie you can.
Did you give me this?
I tried to print you one. Oh, alright. I gave you the actual section.
Thank you. Somebody just put this on my chair.
Yeah, they do.
That's the only one that is.
We're going to call the meeting back to order. It is way more than 20 minutes. I think we took almost 25. It's close to 8 o'clock. We are starting with item F. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, a quasi-public hearing, and this will be the second reading of ordinance 2022-703, an ordinance of the City of Williston, Florida, amending the zoning map of the City of Williston Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application by Covington FPC LLC for 47.9 plus or minus acres identified as numerous parcels attached as Exhibit A on the official record of the Levy County Property Appraiser under the amendment procedures established in Chapter 163 Florida statutes, changing the zoning and future land use classification from residential to mixed use on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Williston, Florida. Described herein, providing severability, providing for incorporation of city maps, and providing an effective date. At this time, if there is, we will ask the council members if anybody has had any ex parte communication with anyone regarding this case. I know we've all driven by it, so we pretty much know where it is. And I don't know if anybody else has any ex parte communication that they'd like to express at this time.
I have not.
Hearing none, I will ask anyone who plans to speak to this issue to please raise your right hand. Yes, you may stand and raise your right hand, and Miss Latricia will swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you so much. The city clerk will be the one who takes custody of any exhibits, any diagrams, photographs, anything that you present tonight to this body. She will need a copy of it, and she will keep it for at least 30 days. in case of appeal. At this time, we will ask the staff to make an opening statement.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones.
We saw this a few months ago, and I'm bringing it back to you. We're going to call it Berkeley Oaks, but you originally knew it as Covington. So the proposed Berkeley Oaks subdivision is a rezoning application for approximately 50 acres of residential property off of Southwest 7th, just west of Williston Middle High School. The proposed project will result in residential subdivision with 248 dwelling units, 148 of which will be single-family units, and 100 will be multi-family units. The density for the proposed project will be 5.18 dwelling units per acre. The ingress and the egress is on Northeast 30th Street and Southwest 7th, so there'll be two. The rezoning request is required